So just the end of the previous lesson video, we discussed the Occupational Safety and Health Act, and it to ensure the worker and workplace safety, and also to make sure employers provide their workers a place of employment free from recognized hazards to safety and health, including the something related to COVID-19. Now we talk about the building codes and how that different from OSHA applied to engineering and construction. And as you can see, thousands of jurisdictions, including Lee County, Florida, in the U.S. are currently controlled by the building and other codes, building codes and other codes. And then the currently the International Building Code (IBC) has become the most widely used since 2000. Before they have a Uniform Building Code (UBC). Now it's in 2000, 20 years ago, they more with the IBC. And in Florida, if you Google Florida Building Code, or adopted from IBC as well, and it changed every few years. And IBC, International Building Code, developed by the International Code Council. For those of you interested, you can go to that link to see what is that about. So every year they issue, and then go to the state jurisdictions, they will adopt and of course customize for the local areas like Florida, different from some other state in the north, Maine, New Hampshire, etc. So what is the building code is about? Is code establish the minimum standards. So all the code is standard minimum standard requirement for construction and building occupancy to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And of course, they do not assure the efficient construction or utilization. So that is not about that. Is contractor, the engineer have to ensure. So because the minimum standard requirement for the construction and building occupancy to protect the public health, make sure the project will not collapse when they build, the public health, safety, and welfare, and focus on the safety of the constructed facility. It's not about the workers during that construction project. Why? Because they do not cover the safety and health of the workers performing construction. Why? Because that go back to the previous one, that OSHA is all about to ensure the worker and workplace safety. So that is the OSHA. So that different between the building codes and the OSHA occupational safety and health. One, OSHA focus on the worker and workplace safety. Building codes focus on the safety of the constructed facility to ensure protect the public health, safety, and welfare. Public safety, public welfare. And it do not cover the safety and health of the workers performing construction. So that's the difference between the two. And then we have a code, how to make sure the code is compliant. It signified by the permits. And there are many types of permits. If we talk about law, regulation, status, they also have permit to get through. And that our first guest lecturer, Mr. Wilson, discussed very well at the state, federal level of permit. And now I go to the building permits, that more with the local. We're talking here, we have building permit, and then at each specialty for your project, we have electrical permit, plumbing, mechanical permit. So there are various permits for specialty work. And combination of them is building permit. And then the building permits can be issued to either property owner or to the licensed contractor. So you need to have a license to perform the work based on the commercial law that we are talking earlier in the first lesson video. Construction without valid permits is in violation of the law. So keep that in mind. Even we modification our electrical work in our residential homes is also violation of the law. So after construction, how can we ensure the permit is compliant and we build based on what the permit is allowed, so that we have a certificate of occupancy. With that certificate of occupancy, even you will have the project still have some work to do, but that signify user can be occupied the projects. Even the work still some punch list, some work still going on, but that's certified occupancy. And then when the project, the facility completely finished and ready to turn over to the clients, the owner, then it issues certificate of completion. So certificate of occupancy don't need to be happen at the same time certificate of completion. It can be earlier so that the user can use. The next one that we're talking about in terms of the rules for project participant is the tort law. So what is tort law? That is a body of the common law. And you can say, oh, so what is the body of common law? So the common law is based on the legal precedents that are also considered the case law that made by the church, by the churches. So legal precedent. What does that mean? I give you an example. If someone violate the law by some day of lockdown, I mean before, in March, lock down the beach. Someone just go to the beach and enjoy it during the lockdown, for example, in Former Beach. Then on that day, he will be punished. He or she will be punished with listen to rock music for 24 hours continuously. Then next day, if I go to the beach during the lockdown and I enjoy beach, then the police caught based on the legal precedent, which is the common law. Yesterday, someone already caught and got and punished for listen rock music for 24 hours continuously. I will be punished with the same punishment. Then I have to listen to the rock music for 24 hours continuously. So that is based on the legal precedent that is the common law. So they call church make law or the case law. And the tort is a civil law. So what does that mean? One cannot with impunity either intentionally or unintentionally. So even you unintentionally, but you conduct affair in a manner that will injure or damage other, you still under the tort law. So it doesn't mean that I'm not intended to do. It doesn't mean you have no liability. That apply for the tort law in this case. Okay, so that is the tort law. And then the last one is about the contract. That is the rule for project participation. So as you can see, project participant have 3 types of rules that we are talking about: the regulation, statute, and made by the government agencies. The second one is the tort law, and the last one is the contract. And before we talk about what is the contract, I just show you the typical construction industry contract documents. So start with the owner and architect engineer contract for professional services, do the design work basically. And then you go advertise for bid, and then you select contractors. Some project is big, one contractor may not be able to perform the work. They need to form a joint venture with other contractors. So they have agreements between the 2 parties in the joint venture. So they form a contract. And then they bid. And when they bid, got awarded the owner contract, contractor construction contract. So there is prime contracts in there. And then the prime contract will have many other contracts, surety bonds, something we talk, payment bond, etc. in the first lesson video, insurance contracts, subcontract agreements, because multiple subcontractors can be show up in the project. Have the labor agreements, union, etc. Purchase order agreements with the suppliers. So all of that are the contracts. So it can be thousands of contracts related in one project. And you can see through the process with different parties in here. So that is one of the rules for project participation, comply with what the contract says. But then let's see, what is the contract? What is the contract? what constitutes a contract. To constitute the contract first, and there are three components. First, they are offered. Think about the bidding process that you do in project one. The one that I send you the information and request for the proposal for the bid. Is that an offer? Or the one you submitted me, consider the offer? Think about that. Which way you consider offer? If you post, think about that. Now you turn play on, and I can tell you the one that you submit me, the bid is considered an offer that you offer to do this project with that certain amount of money. So that is offer. So this to be a contract must have an offer, and it can be verbal or written, and have acceptance. If I accept your offer, multiple bidder bid the project. If the owner accept, then there is the second components constitute a contract, that is acceptance. And offer and acceptance for what? The last one have consideration. What is the exchange in that contract? So you offer, you will perform the work, and I will pay certain amount of money. That is consideration involved. So just not the offer, but nothing, and acceptance for what? The consideration. That have some transactions involved in that process. And those are the three components that constitute a contract: offer, acceptance, and consideration. However, a contract must not be contrary to the law. It's very important. I'll give you one example, very simple. You hire someone to do for your project, and as you can see in the commercial law, we're talking about the engineering and contractor license laws. You know that contractor have no license, or his or her license is expired, and you still sign a contract with them. So they offered to do the work for them, for you, and you accept the work. Consideration: I will pay you $1 million to build this project. At the end, you have to complete that project for me. So that have all of these three components. However, in that case, if the contractor get your money, $1 million, ran away, and you go after the rules for project participants, here is the contract. But in this case, the contract is not enforceable. Contract is not enforceable. So it is difficult for you to get the money based on the contract, because you know that contractors have no license. You steal, and that contrary to the law, but you still sign the contract, and that contract is not enforceable. So keep that in mind. So even we have three components, but it have to be complied with the law. So finally, the liability, you have a rules, then you have a liability in engineering and construction process. The first is the contract liability. So something we talk about, and it can be that liability expressed in the contract provision. So it's something explicit in the contract. Example includes you have to complete this project within 1 year. That is expressed. So you have liable if you fail to deliver, or the contractor failed to deliver that project within a year, delay the project, then he or she may be liable. That is spread in the contract. Implied contract provision, so it even not explicitly state in the contract, but have some implied, and that implied guarantee is one example. Even they don't say what you guarantee in the contract, but of course when you do, you have some implication that you have guarantee certain limited of years. For example, in engineering construction project, normally guarantee within a year, if not higher. So that implies contract provision. When you do you engineer, you sign contract with the clients to provide the engineering service for the project, and if even the contract does not say what is your liable if the project fail or project collapse, you still have implied guarantee that your engineering service, your designs is meet the requirement, building code, etc. So that is the implied contract provision. If not explicitly state in the contract, but we still have liable. The next is statutory liability. So something about related to the rules, related to statute, related to regulation imposed by government bodies. And it, like I said, it imposed by law and statute. It can be related to environmental laws. We discussed in the first lesson videos, commercial laws, or employment related laws. So those are stationary. For example, if the owner don't provide the safe workplace for the workers, and then they have an accident, just like you see the FIU bridge collapse 2.5 years ago at the Florida International University, the pedestrian bridge. Then you have, in this case, have a statutory liability. You don't provide workplace safety for the workers. The last one is tort liability. Even between the party, they don't have a contract to sign with. You don't have a something related to statutory, environmental, commercial, or employment related. We will have a tort liability, the civil law. Civil law, even intentional or not intentional, but you cannot harm other people. Okay, so that is the liability involved. And let's go to the one case in the problem one, that the only problem that we have in today lessons, like I say, conceptual today, to show you what kind of liability, the contract liability, statutory liability, or tort liability in that scenarios. Let's get back to here. So you have the last thing is the problem one in here. A contractor encountered the rock in an urban areas excavation and elect to loosen it by blasting. The advice of the expert were obtained and blasting operation were conducted with great skill and care. So they take care, so want to protect the public safety and health. However, cracking occurred in the plaster walls of the several houses in the immediate vicinity of the work as a result of the blasting. Briefly discuss this situation, stating whether it results in liability for the contractor, and if so, the time or kind of liability involved. So, and you can see in this case, with that case, the contractor take a great care, get advice from the expert, they conduct with the great skill and care, but then the crack happen occurs, this still results in the liability for the contractor. So because, and what type of liability? In this case, the contractor and the house adjacent to that site have no contract, so there is no contract liability. In this case, it's more with the civil law. One cannot be intentionally or unintentionally. In this case, contractor is not intention to damage the surrounding house. They do a great care in there, but the contractor still have liable for that. So with that, this scenario, as you can see, the contractor was liable for the damage under the tort law, and this is a tort or negligent liability. Even